What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Christ in Capital, the show that wants to encourage you to love God, love neighbor, and build something. I'm the host, Dustin Johnson, and I have a fantastic episode lined up for you guys today. We're going to be talking with Nathan Anderson, the prolific creator of the film On Earth as It Is in Heaven. We're going to talk about his experience in the film industry, his theological background, that sort of thing. But also, I have a new co-pilot. So Nathan Johnson, who is my normal co-host, is not with us. And instead, we have Kentrell Barnes. So Kentrell, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Nathan. Sorry, Dustin.
Can you give everyone just a brief background?
Yeah.
What do you do, who you are, that sort of thing?
Well, first, I just want to say, I listen to you say that intro a lot, and it's just cool to see you do it in person. But I'm kind of all over the place when it comes to film. I started like a year and a half ago. I worked for two nonprofit organizations doing editing, behind the camera, sound and inventory and stuff like that. But I'm also just a passionate short films and features. So I'm just trying to find a way to work myself to that. Towards that goal.
Okay. You cut out a little bit, but I think you said you're passionate about short films, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I'm really a writer at heart, and so I just want to be able to put that on film.
Okay. Yep. And Kentrell and I go to the same church, so we go to a Reformed Presbyterian church, and I thought it would be best to get him on the show to talk with Nathan, because we're going to be talking about maybe the industry, the film craft, that sort of thing, and I think Kentrell will be able to provide some good questions there. So yeah, before we dive into the episode, I wanted to encourage everyone to go over to goodfightoutfitters.com. That's Christ in Capital's kind of side project. Go check it out. We got lots of shirts there, really intended to highlight the Christian faith as a fight, right? We need to be Christians with a backbone who can stand on biblical principles unwaveringly. So go check it out. Go buy a shirt. Share the website with a friend. They're gonna love it. I think that's the Men's Warehouse. You're gonna love. Or what is it? You're gonna like the way you look. I can't do it as deep as his voice is. Anyways, okay. So Nathan Anderson, welcome to the show. Can you, like Kentrell, give us a brief overview? Who are you? What do you do? Why did I ask you to be on this podcast?
Sure. Thanks for having me, Dustin. My name's Nathan Anderson. I am a filmmaker based out of Pichilemu, Chile. So this is where I live, down here with my wife and two kids. And yeah, I made a film called On Earth as It Is in Heaven. Back in 2020, I released that. And this year I released through Lure a project called Teach All Nations, which is kind of a continuation of my first film. So that's what I've been up to recently.
It's interesting that you said you released On Earth as It Is in Heaven the year that we had coronavirus, COVID. So like the year that it looked like everything was going to hell, you released something that said, actually, things are getting better. Can you just tell us what is On Earth as It Is in Heaven? What was the project about? What inspired it?
Yeah, so On Earth as It Is in Heaven was a film where I just attempted to share a little bit of my own journey in terms of view of eschatology, view of last things, of the end times, and how that evolved from, kind of a typical evangelical, somewhat premillennial-ish view to a view of a post-millennial perspective, where I believe, in the victory of Christ's church in history, that the gospel is going to fill the earth like the waters cover the sea before Christ returns. And so I discussed that view in the film. Also, just consider some of the great heroes of the faith of the past that have believed this, the guys that started the modern missions movement, like William Carey and others. And so, yeah, that's a little bit of what the project was about.
Yeah, I like to I think it's Doug Wilson's joke. He says when people get caught up in the whole like pre and post, he said, let's just break it down. I'm an optimillennialist. I believe, we should have optimism as it relates to Christ's victory in the world, how the church, plays out in history, that sort of thing. I always think that's a good a good little pushback. So when I just want to give you my experience, I stumbled upon this video. I don't know how, just it was out there on social media or something, or someone shared it. And, it's one of those things where, you see just kind of this independent film being pushed across social media. You're like, okay, I'll check it out. It's probably going to be blah anyway. And I open it and I, click on it. And the production quality of this thing is through the roof. Like, it is pristine. Like, it's crisp. The production quality is good. The audio is good. The story or the content is good. And it made it seem like you were like a professional filmmaker and you had been doing this for years. So can you give us the backstory? Like, how long had you been in film before this kind of took hold? What's the backstory?
Trust me, that's all perception. There's no connection with reality over there. Okay. Because so my journey in terms of getting involved with photography and film really started, late 2015, early 2016. So before that, I hadn't really even, taken many pictures or really used a camera or done any editing before. And so I had friends who were photographers and involved with some of that stuff, but hadn't really done that. So I just, my wife's a photographer, so, learned a few things from her as well, for sure. But yeah, started getting into that, started learning by just watching YouTube videos and, picking things up along the way. And probably around, this would be probably late 2017, early 2018, is when I, decided, I was like, hey, I want to make this film. Actually, originally, I wanted to make it in Spanish because, as I mentioned, I live here in Chile. And my goal with it was just to kind of present, kind of a post-millennial perspective in the Spanish-speaking context. So I knew a few missionaries and pastors down here who were post-millennial. I interviewed them. And, since I was just learning, all those interviews were terrible. The interviewees weren't terrible, but my audio, my color balance and lighting and all that was just really bad. So I was going to have to actually redo all of that, basically. But then I had this chance to come to the States. I went to the States for about 3 months. And while I was there, I was able to set up, the interview with Doug Wilson, with Steve Gregg, and with Bruce Gore. And so by the time I got back to Chile, I had these interviews. I had learned from my past mistakes somewhat, Chile at that time, this was like 2019 now. And in October of 2019, we had a lot of social upheaval, like riots in the streets and all kinds of wackiness that's still playing out to a certain extent right now. But so I didn't really have the chance to drive around to a few different cities and redo those interviews I did. So I just said, look, I have all these interviews in English. Might as well just make the movie in English now and add subtitles later. And that's what I did. I just took the interviews I had, and another brother named Mike Cochran helped me to do the interview with Ken Gentry. So I sent him questions and he did that interview. And yeah, I just, from late 2019, and the other thing is I had already started editing I was like halfway through editing, and I just scrapped all that and started all over again with all of that. And so, late 2019, I started the editing process. By like February, I finished somehow. And I was like, well, what do I do now? I made this movie. And so I just uploaded it to Facebook and YouTube and, shared it.
So you had no, it was just purely because you wanted to make it. And you just, at the end, were like, hey, let me just throw it out there and see how it does.
That's exactly how it went.
Behold the power of social media.
I mean, it didn't take off right away. Obviously, it was, it was a process.
It looked to me like it did, or at least from when I got it. Or when I watched it, and then I just started seeing everyone it's like the dominoes. But
well, it was interesting because I released it on February 15th, 2020. And, at least down here, that was, I think it was the weekend of March 11th. I think somewhere in there was when everything went crazy for us with COVID down here. So it was literally just a few weeks before all of this. And so, yeah, it was pretty crazy time. And, but yeah, it was great to be able to have that movie, to share it and watch people, slowly but surely respond to it as well.
Yeah. I've seen it do a lot. A lot of people have seen it, said it's really awesome, especially, personally, me coming from a, I guess, dispensational pre-mill background, the whole post-mill thing is kind of like jarring, but if it's delivered to you video form first, it's just so much more like powerful, I think. And the video did an awesome job of kind of expounding upon, those aspects of the scriptures where, you probably need to bring a little more context in, or, maybe we need to correct some misconceptions, that sort of thing. So we're not going to dive into the details of the theological, like, scripture and how we kind of prove this out, because the video does it amazing. I'm going to let everyone go and watch this. I'll link it to the show notes, that sort of thing. But I wanted to dive into kind of the craft in and of itself, because so much of what postmillennialism is about the gospel going forth. And when the gospel goes forth in the world, it changes hearts, changes minds, it changes a person, right? And when people are transformed, that naturally makes its way out. It kind of does something in the world. And so that involves media, film, art, artistry, economics, all of that stuff. And so let's just talk about film. What are some of the things, if you're talking to someone who is trying to get into film, wants to get started, was inspired by your movie, what do you say to them? How do they get started? And then I'll let Kentrell kind of take over from there.
Yeah, that's a great question. For me, a lot of the inspiration to just even, being able to just go out and try to do something like that was thanks to, I remember this was probably late 2015, early 2016. I was listening to this series from American Vision from a conference, I think, on culture and a number of different topics. And one of the talks in that was by Darren Doan, actually.
Okay.
And I had seen his movie Collision, right? The documentary about Doug Wilson and Christopher Hitchens. Yeah. And I recognized his name, so I listened to the talk. And he had a very interesting approach to how he saw the whole filmmaking thing, is where he just kind of said, look, if you want to be a filmmaker, you're going to suck, basically. And that the only way that, you're just going to go out there and try stuff, and people are going to say nasty things about you, and you're going to throw stuff out there. People are going to criticize you. And then you're going to go and just do it again. And you just keep doing that until something works. And, and then, you try that for a while, and then something else might not work. And, that's just the way it goes. And that approach, just for me personally, was like, okay, I think I can do that. I could just, write something, shoot it, and then throw it out there and try to make something else. And just, that made sense to me, at least. So I have no idea if that makes sense to anybody else, or what, other people's process is. I have no idea about the film industry, to be honest. I mean, what I have made has been mostly just me, going out and doing interviews, me and a few of my friends going out and filming stuff, and, in our backyard, basically, or, different places, and trying to come up with different ideas, trying it out. And that's been the process for me. It hasn't been, I haven't had all that much pressure of having to work, with a large team and, different roles. I've just kind of been doing everything. And that was another thing that really I strived for in my first film, especially, was this idea of look, I don't really have any money to make stuff. So I need to figure out a way. How can I make a film and a documentary that makes sense, that, keeps people engaged, but that I'm not dependent on 10 other people to get it finished. Basically, that was my goal. And that's where I was trying to make something that, that I could do most of the work. So that's why I ended up doing, I was like, okay, well, I did the narration. I ended up, kind of turning myself into one of the main characters because, I was available for that. Basically, I, did I did the interviews, the editing, and just with the help of a few of my friends, we were able to make something that, I'm very thankful for, basically.
I'll let you go, Kentrell. You look like you're chomping at the bit to ask.
Well, I'm just.
Oh, you cut out a little bit, Kentrell. You can't hear you. There we go. I think so.
Now?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. So.
Nope, can't hear you. Are you holding on to the actual cord? No.
No, I'm not. But can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Hopefully it's
Don't move.
Okay. So you said you started around 2017, right?
Yeah.
Around, yeah. So I'm just kind of blown away that you started 2017 and just went straight into making your own documentary, and it's become what it is now. I'm just curious how you I don't know, how did you find the resources and knew exactly what to do to create what you have, what you've created?
Well, okay. So the first thing I did was in 2016, one of the first things out of the gate, I just kind of made a short, with some friends, short little documentary, like a 15-minute doc about my parents and how they came to Chile and just a little bit of their story. And so that was kind of my first experience of having these 45-minute interviews, cutting it down and doing that whole process. And I mean, we didn't even really know about frame rates, or that we just had all the cameras just on auto and, just kind of getting different shots. And so, I mean, for me, it's all just been a process of trial and error, seeing what works. I think for me, kind of the more intimidating part was kind of the I don't know, the graphics, or trying to, because you see a lot of documentaries with cool animations and different things like that, and you're like, okay, how do I figure that out, or what can I do to keep people kind of engaged? So it's not just a talking head the whole time, kind of a thing. So I don't know. It was I think a process of trial and error. I think it helped a lot that I, basically put together half of the documentary and then just kind of threw that away and started all over again. I mean, that was very a good challenge, I guess. And I don't know. It's hard to know how exactly all the details came together. Also had my friend Fabian, who's a filmmaker as well, doing a number of the shots, and especially the final sequence of the documentary, that was just so many things had to come together for that. You have no idea how much duct tape and just kind of how everything just came together for that. It was pretty amazing. My friend just had this old, kind of a VW van that was broken down, and then he got it running for a week, and that was the week we shot that. And the week after, it was back to being broken down, and just there's so many details like that just came together. And I mean, I've always just thinking in terms of trying to figure out a beginning, a middle, and end, obviously, for that kind of stuff, trying to make everything kind of cohesive and flow from one section to the next. And I mean, that's basically the process I was attempting with all that.
Well, so like you have, I'll say this as a story writer, it's easy to like come up with an idea and say like this is what I want the ending to be, or this is the important part in the story that I want people to see and feel. This is an important thing I want them to feel. But like everything in between, like the moments in between where it's like the cuts and the visuals and like the emotions on someone's face or even a graphic or whatever, like how do you fill in the gaps of the important stuff, like the meat, and also I was just curious about like how do you, maybe this is a separate question you can answer later, but like how do you get the music and stuff that's how are you allowed, how do you get the things, and I'm wondering how do I ask this question, like the music that you use and graphics that you use and stuff, like do you have to sign releases and like pay for music and any of that stuff?
Well, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of different ways to get music these days. I mean, there's different platforms that, license music and subscriptions and all that kind of stuff. And so, and also, I mean, or you could just talk directly to people who make music and figure that stuff. So yeah, there's a lot of details in terms of that kind of stuff, I guess. But yeah, no, it's all that kind of stuff is stuff I just kind of picked up and learned along the way, I guess.
And the in between moments with the storytelling.
I mean, for me, it's just kind of you put a section together and you watch it, you see the timing, see if it flows, and if it doesn't, and if it's lags a bit, you add stuff or try to think of something in the moment, and just at whatever my Photoshop or whatever skill level I have at that point, or whatever I learned yesterday, I just throw it into the mix. So it's not exactly, I don't know if that's the best process or not, but that's just the way it works for me, at least.
Well, this is like just inspiring, and like I said, I'm kind of blown away because you said you started around like 2016, 2017 and just made this. And for somebody like me, like I've been trying to do short films since 2010 or 2011. Haven't done anything yet, but then I hear that you just pick up a camera and some gear and just get it done. And I'm like, why haven't I done that yet? And so it's just like you mentioned about like the failure part, and like you fail, or you make something and people critique it or they don't like it, and then you make something else and maybe someone does like it. How do you get like where do you get that I guess just the motivation to get up and make something even though you feel like you could fail? Like if this project that you made obviously is a big success for you, but like what if it had flopped big time?
Well, I mean, again, for me, I didn't have huge expectations to begin with that. I mean, for me, I did not expect it to go that far beyond just my group of, people here and kind of where I'm at. And so, yeah, I mean, honestly, I've just been blown away by just the whole process and the people I've been able to meet, and just through making that movie, I've just been super blessed. And so for me, I don't know, I guess if I would have, done it all and just, nobody watched the movie, it just sat there, then I don't know, I probably might have, who knows, maybe I'd just go make another one, or maybe I'd say, yeah, maybe that I'll stick to some other topic or some other kind of filmmaking, because that's the thing too, is you're also, it's all a mixture of your knowledge, your talent, your abilities, everything that you bring to something. And, a lot of times you just figure it out along the way and figure where all that fits together best, I guess.
I think this topic too that you chose for the film is like very hard for a lot of people to digest too. So it's something that you could really get like torn apart by people who don't agree with you. And just like just whatever it takes to go out and make a film like that. And it's very important too. You want to make sure you put it together great so that people can take it in and listen to what's being said, and it being, the information is good that you're getting from the movie. So like it being taught to people as well. But yeah, it's just cool that you were able to do that.
How long, Nathan, if you don't mind, and to piggyback on what Kentrell just said, I'm assuming, and from what I can tell, the theological, training and learning was started way in advance of this.
Yeah, I mean, it's a topic I got I guess just the whole issue of eschatology is something I got interested like maybe 12 years ago, something like that. And so, yeah, I've been studying that, reading about that, and it's been an interest of mine for a while.
It's definitely a game changer. Like when you dive into like the Matthew 24s and the Revelations and the Daniel 7 and 9s, and yeah, it's definitely a game changer. So I guess as we're kind of rounding this out, how does media, entertainment, film fit into that whole like post-millennial, optimillennialist, as Doug Wilson would say, framework? What is, what is it? What role does it play in that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, obviously film and entertainment is a big way. In our culture, people, the culture is shaped, and the media people consume, that people spend hours and hours a day consuming videos, that somebody somewhere put together. And so I think it's very important for Christians to be involved in one way or another, making, content that is actually, challenging and shaping the culture in a lot of different ways, whether it be embraced, in more of a mainstream audience, or whether it be things that are more specific and kind of more niche or whatever. I think it's important. And I think it's something that has been a struggle, I think, for Christians to really get involved with at times. I mean, I'm not a part in any way of entertainment industry, I don't think, in terms of Hollywood and all that kind of stuff. But it seems like from different creatives I've talked to, it seems like a very difficult environment as a Christian to be a part of, especially when you consider those kind of productions involve so much collaboration. There's so many people involved in something like that. It's hard to really have a big impact on some of those productions, in a lot of ways. And so I think it's an area that Christians really need to, I guess, in some ways, rethink how exactly they're involved in all of that, and try to produce content and media and films that challenge the culture, that glorify God, and that have a long-term impact.
Yep. I think that's a really good segue into the last question, which is the fun question. And I think I prepped each of you, so you better have a good answer. I'm just kidding. We're not gonna. We might criticize you, but yeah, you're gonna dust off and you're gonna get back to it, right? As we've learned from Nathan. Okay, so the fun question is, if you could choose one theologian, and it could be dead or alive, to direct or act as a consultant on your next feature film, and this feature film is in the genre of like Stranger Things or one of those big epic blockbusters or Netflix's, however you want to call it, who would it be? So I'll let you go first, Nathan.
Oh, wow. Good question. I don't know. Maybe C.S. Lewis. Well, he's not a great theologian per se. C.S. Lewis, but he writes some good stories, and he writes a lot of theological stuff. Some of it's great, some of it's the book on the Psalms, not so much. But yeah, maybe C.S. Lewis, I guess.
Okay. What about you, Kentrell?
That was a good one. I think he might have stolen mine with C.S. Lewis, because he was already he already wrote a lot of literature. I guess to be a good Presbyterian, I'd have to say Calvin. I think I would make a movie that's like an allegory to Christ's, death and resurrection, or at least like his life leading up to it, and just to show an ultimate display of love and sacrifice. And I would like to have him by my side, just showing me, giving me some good tips on what love looks like, what the Bible has to say about love, what Jesus did for us and stuff like that.
Awesome. I think I would, I think mine would probably be contemporary. I really like Nate Wilson's work. And this, I'm barring Nathan Anderson and Jesus and Paul out of this. We can't say those. But I think I would go with Nate Wilson, N.D. Wilson. Really great writer, poet, doing a lot of cool things in film as well. So yeah, I thought that was fun. Last thing I want to show you guys, I want to see if you guys have seen this, and we will wrap it up. Let's see. Share. Have you guys seen this? Oh, advertisements.
No. I know I'm not normal.
Close your ears, plug your ears, plug your ears.
What?
All right. Have you guys seen this?
Oh yeah. I've seen it so many times.
And if you're listening on audio or on the podcast, you got to get on YouTube. You got to watch it. So the question is, Nathan and Kentrell, could you do this?
I think so.
I mean, me personally, I haven't flown FPV drones at all so far. So I have a normal drone, but yeah, that's pretty crazy. And there's a lot of really talented people, flying FPV drones these days and doing this kind of stuff. So
that's insane. I just think that's amazing. I know, Kentrell, you do some drone filming. Nathan, did you do the drone stuff for your film?
Yeah. Well, I guess some of it, a little bit of it might be stock footage. I don't remember, but yeah, definitely did a good amount of drone stuff for my film.
That's awesome. All right. Kentrell, do you have anything else before we sign off? I know you might have a couple questions.
I mean, I can ask a bunch of questions, but they probably wouldn't be beneficial to the podcast.
Well, now that you two kind of know each other, you're going to touch base offline.
Sure.
Okay. So, Nathan, thank you so much for joining me and Kentrell. The podcast, the Christ and Capital brand, is all about encouraging people to build stuff, to make stuff, to go out and actually get your hands dirty and do something. Because all of economics is people on the ground floor, just making stuff, just producing things, serving people. So that's what it's all about. And I'm glad you're able to come on and talk to us about filmmaking, and kind of give that theological lens to it. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Is there anywhere you want people to go to get in touch with you, get in touch with your work, that sort of thing?
Yeah, you could go to onearthfilm.net is probably the best place. And there's links to, my film, On Earth as It Is in Heaven. There's a version on YouTube and on Amazon and the Canon app. I'd recommend everyone go check out the Canon Press. Canon app is a great place to watch a film, but then also listen to some great audiobooks and lectures and all kinds of good stuff. So onearthfilm.net.
Awesome. Kentrell, what about you?
I guess just Instagram right now. It's me, Trell, ITSMETRELL. Me and my friends have a podcast. It's not big right now and it's not that great, but we're working on it. And the premise is pretty much me and one of my friends are Christians and the other two guys are not. And so we have a lot of like guy talk and banter going back and forth. And sometimes we talk about things that are important, like relationships, mental health, and faith and stuff like that. But most of the time it's just like poop jokes and stuff. But that's called The Storytellers. And you can find it on YouTube and Apple Podcasts and everywhere else you listen to podcasts.
Awesome. Yep. And I will link all of that stuff in the show notes. And yeah, if you guys want to get in touch, go to the show notes. Everything will be there. So that's it. Awesome. Great podcast. Great discussion. Until next time, everybody, go love God, love neighbor, and build something. Talk to you later.
This This has been a Manifold Ministries podcast. For more content, visit us at manifoldministries.com.